Welcome to Nerdarchy for nerds by nerds. I am Nerder Doug, and tonight I am going to put a ring on it with this nerd.
Nerdacus Ted. I hope that's not some kind of bizarre proposal there, sir.
I'm proposing that we talk about rings in D&D tonight for the chat.
Well, that I can certainly. So, like, rings are one of those things. These majestic items that so many creators and all the way back to the beginning. These are like items of power that are supposed to be larger than life to some degree. And I don't know whether I always hold true to that idea and that ideal. But given D&D's roots in Lord of the Rings and the Ring of Power, we definitely can understand where that concept comes from.
Yeah, it's totally it's a compelling thing. I mean, a circle is like a strong shape. It's magical, like you said. It requires like skill and artifice to make, and they come in so many sizes. It's not ostentatious in the sense of like, well, if you have a ring on, it can be hidden easily,
Right.
but it can also be prominent and shiny and things like that. Yeah, it's a cool item. It's like whether it's something characters have or they're questing for or they're questing to destroy.
So do you hold true to that ideal of rings of power in your games and in your past stories, or do you kind of hold truth more to the concept of like, oh, it's a ring of warmth and you're not really old or what have you?
That's a good question. I was thinking a little bit about that today, and I'd say a little column A and a little column B. Like, to some extent, it's like, well, it's also just like a convenient thing to enchant because it's like easy to wear and easy to
Mm-hmm.
hide. And even if it's just something like that, like it just keeps you warm. Actually, to your point, it sort of led me to look at the crafting rules and the DMGs because I was like, well, I always like to look at D&D Beyond and just see like, all the mentions of it in different ways, things that stand out. And one of them, there's one creature that has anything to do with a ring, and it's a Griffin cavalry rider.
Okay.
Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and they're as like it says on the tin, which you'd imagine, and they have a ring that if they can cast Featherfall one time, and then it just becomes a non-magical ring. And I was like, wait, I'm like, if this is like the city's defenses, I mean, they probably don't have like tons of those guards, but that could be expensive, right? And time consuming. So I looked up, not so. Interestingly enough, two people working together could make a one-time Ring of Featherfall, character NPCs or PCs, in one day for 25 gold.
Wow.
Of downtime.
That's
I was like, damn, that's pretty darn easy. I was like, and I love discovering those little things or rediscovering them, looking through the rule books, because it's like, A, they're often things people complain about a lot. And B, it's like, boy, that seems abusable, right? I mean, that's pretty deep. And it doesn't require, and it does have the caveat of like the DM, it's like you can incorporate other things that they have to do.
right.
But baseline, it's just a downtime activity.
I am fond of one-use items, regardless of what degree of power they are. It's going to be a one thing, and then it's on.
I was thinking about that with their potions newsletter this past week, but in the same way, it's like I think I wrote about that. Like even if it's a real powerful thing, it's only going to do that one time. So in a sense, it can be a real cool moment too.
So like regardless of what direction you go with those rings of Featherfall, like if you've got any kind of game where you're thinking about heights, like those things, like it's worth throwing 25 gold at, even if I have to do it myself over 2 days. Sure. I mean, I can even remember at the first time that I've gamed with you in person, had a goblin who fell like 150 feet. That was a lot of damage he took.
Yeah.
He survived the fall, albeit barely. A ring of Featherfall, even a one-use thing, like that would have changed that whole thing for him. So
and to contrast the idea of like unique rings of power, like we mentioned at the start of the chat, something like that can sort of like influence your world building and stuff too, because you think like, well, you know, in that sense, it's not expensive to produce these things. Like even, you know, if you're just using that. But then in game terms, you think like, well, who would have those? Certainly something like that where they're mounted guards and things. It's a safety thing. But what if like, you know, your Goliaths or something devoted a portion of their time to just making those rings and stuff, and it's like part of their culture. They could, you know, 25 gold to an adventure isn't a lot, but in, you know, baseline terms, it's a significant amount in the knowledge to cast those spells. So, you know, that could really give you an ideas for like maybe there's part of their culture that like they just study enough magic to do that, and that's what helps them become like a dominant culture on the mountains, because it's like, well, we can't fall to our deaths.
So, you know, that's a fantastic idea. Definitely lead in for, you know, why people would travel to those mountains, why people would learn Giant to speak to the Goliaths, why people would go to trade, because perhaps those rings require rare reagents that are not typically available to them. But
yeah, maybe they have a controlling interest in like some kind of the metal that's used to forge like up in those
but in another direction, because you talked about crafting, and it's loosely related to those rings, so tangent to tangent.
Sure.
You know what, you know, for crafting rules, these are, every GM tends to do things differently. First time you go to do something, if it's something that is meant to be replicatable, you know, perhaps you have to develop a recipe or the instructions to do so, and there's a cost associated with that. So if you're looking to make potions of healing, rings of featherfall, what have you, investment time into figuring it out. But once you do, now you have it. Now you can replicate it. You know, in infinitum. And I know I pronounced that wrong, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
So
sorry.
that could, you know, allow you to suck up more gold, but you now have this thing. Now the last tangent to that is, as treasure, you could find someone's recipe, someone's instructions for how to make a thing, and now, oh, well, you didn't get a thing, but you've got a recipe should you wish to use downtime and make.
Yeah, that's some that, like, you know, if you want to incorporate those rules, even if you don't like play them out at the table, or you could, but like spending your downtime, and it certainly costs gold and things to do those. So people always like, what are you going to spend your gold on? It's like that, right? But also, you know, and again, you know, in certain kinds of games, like I'm thinking of like that Acquisitions Inc. style, like with the book and everything, that could totally be a business. I mean, in one sense, it's insurance, right? I mean, you're basically just selling insurance. Like, hey, no matter how great of a fall you take one time, it's saving. You just sell them for 26 gold. You made your money back. Boom.
Well, I will say, because it's come up, it's not about how far you can fall, because you only can fall 600 feet. After that, the spell ends and you keep falling. So we actually were in an event that we were like 1,000 feet up, and you know the possibility of falling was there, and it's like, well, we can feather fall, but there's still another 400 feet thereafter. What happens?
Is there? I'm sure there's some kind of like, you know, math to figure it out, but like, how far do you fall in a round?
In Featherfall, you fall 60 feet.
No, I mean like how far, like in 6 seconds does a character fall? I'm sure people like, or let me ask you this. I know people have done like the actual, you know, real life math, like, when you reach terminal velocity. I mean, like in game terms, does it play anywhere?
I don't know where it's listed, if it's listed anywhere, but I've never actually never been forced to call it into question, because
right.
Like, can't react this round, but next round.
Right.
So it's always been a scenario where somebody is at the ready to do something or not.
Yeah, right. So in the chat, Winter Sky mentioned Stonky's ring, which is on my notes. I might as well get to that. That is unique, possibly, like, curiously so, I would say, in that it is the only official ring of which the rarity is unknown. and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I looked it up. And basically, I'm not sure why it is. So you can cast telekinesis at will, which is a 5th level spell. There's some limitations. You can only, I don't remember what they are. They weren't very tough though. It was like, I think it
Is that in
could.
Tasha's?
No, it's in Candlekeep Mysteries.
Ah,
You
okay.
you couldn't affect things that were being worn or carried, I think was the limitation. So pretty minor limitation. I was like, that's pretty powerful. Wouldn't that just be, I mean, that would be definitely very rare. I mean, a rare item is where you can cast a spell of up to 6th level, like one time, but at will.
Right.
That might, maybe even artifacts. I just thought it was weird that it was unknown. It's like, well, you're the creators of D&D, you should know. So
Well,
like the
I mean,
characters might not know, but it's like I'm the DM, shouldn't I know?
no offense to you know, to the Watts team, but I think that, you know, that was kind of a cop out. You know, a
Yeah.
full spell is considered powerful. You're on the cusp of, well, you can do this more than one time of day, so it's not realm shatteringly powerful, but it's just close because
Mhm.
things in the game are not supposed to allow you to cast anything 6th or above more than once in a day.
Right.
Uh, so anything that allows you to cast a even a modified level spell anytime, you know, as many times as you want per day, that's at most legendary.
Yeah. If not
Legendary
artifact, there's no,
artifact,
yeah.
you know. But I tried to pull up where it was, but I guess it's like buried in one of the
Yeah,
adventures.
it's in that deconstructions, whatever, the one that's spelled weird.
Okay,
Um,
I'll have to look on that
yeah.
later. I wasn't familiar with that name,
Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, I was like, "What's that?" I just like looking up all things. There's
and
only one. Oh, God.
okay,
There's only one artifact ring,
okay,
official thing too. The Ring of Winter, which is in some adventure. I don't remember which one, but
okay.
there's an NPC that has it. Do you
For
remember
me,
which one? I don't remember which one.
I do not. You know, with a name like Ring of Winter, I would think it was in rhyme, but you know,
Nah, it's from several years ago. Maybe
uh,
Storm King's Thunder. I think it's Storm King's Thunder. Now that I think about it. Anyway.
but to me, like, you know, I draw back the, you know, my my pregame on rings goes back to, you know, the concept of like what rings are, and you know, they're worn as symbolism of some kind or another, of
Mhm.
bond, of, you know, matrimony, a bond of, you know, some kind of station or some kind of oath. uh,
Which I guess is sort of a bond in and of itself, even if you're like a noble or a clergyman. It's like, well, you have a
so,
bond with the
you
church
know,
or
if you put on a ring, it's like,
ah, failed a
uh,
sleight of hand.
failed my my dex check, but like you put a ring and it's like, okay, you know, I am making a promise, I am making a vow, and you know, voila, you know, you made this oath for whatever this is. And like I look at that, you know, you see, you know, obviously when people get married, you see, you know, clergymen or, you know, religious, you know, characters where like they hold out their ring to be kissed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see people of
I
station.
trust the Godfather. They do that too.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Dons.
that well, again, that's a where I was going next, like nobility or people of influence, where it's like, okay, there is a symbolism of who that character is, and whether they're wearing a particular ring or just, you know, it's just the hand, but
Mm-hmm.
usually there is some kind of symbology. And like that's the aspect that I'm drawn to. That's the thing that I like. And a lot of times, you know, you find, uh, especially with streamed games, your adventuring party likes to name themselves and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, long time ago on the main channel, you know, we had a game of Dungeon World that, you know, I was a player in. It was just a one shot. It was a super a lot of fun, and the Dungeon World characters are made definitely differently than, you know, D&D characters. And I played a salamander, so I was basically hot to the touch all the time. I could literally, shape and heat metal without a problem. So when we killed something that had basically junk armor or what have you, I would sit there in my free time and I would just, a la, forging, I would handle the hot metal and shape it into things.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
part of the aspect of the game for me was we're an adventuring company. So I was going through the process of smithing or shaping rings for everybody so that we could be a team.
Oh, okay, cool.
So like to me, I thought that was a fun aspect of, hey, we now all have something that's the same, we're linked.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, on the other end of the spectrum, like you're talking about, just like non-magical type rings. That's been something that's on the equipment list of every player's handbook too, just like signet ring, and it's like everybody bought those when I was a kid. Like, yeah, I got some cool like special ring that's some, whether it's like a
Well,
seal of wax or your
in
family
the
crest or your class ring from fighter school or whatever.
in the early days, that was absolutely a thing that I felt was necessary. Um, that it was, oh well, I have this thing, so that is some kind of mark of station that I can do.
Hmm.
Even though, like I would say, 90+% characters that I made never did anything with it,
No, but you knew. You
but
knew
I
it,
knew.
it was yeah, sure. Oh yeah, totally. And a lot of the backgrounds and things, those are included in there as well. Noble, I'm sure, is one of them in fifth edition signet ring.
uh,
Yeah, classic.
so so do you have any rings of note or stories related to rings from your days of gaming?
Yeah, a couple. A few. A few. I was trying to think of, especially like fifth edition ones since that's our jam here. But so first, I got three for you.
Oh, go for it.
First of all is the ring of mind shielding, which I really like. Not, I mean, it's a cool item, but the little flavor in there that like if you die wearing the ring, your soul goes into it, and then you can telepathically communicate with the wearer of the ring. And
Okay.
that's just such a fantastic, like, versatile thing for DM and a player. I mean, yeah, obviously, if you're a player and you have one, you don't want to die, but I mean, there's nothing that says you can't just put any old soul you want in there as you're the DM,
That
right?
that is entirely true. Uh,
So I mean, that's a pretty cool like aspect of that you can introduce things like through a treasure, and it doesn't have to be like bad or a curse, but it's like that's a great way to add little new threads in and let players know
uh,
things.
I love items like that that allow you to, like, oh well, whether it be a past character, like, it's literally the way, like, this character died while wearing this, and you go to the next campaign, they find this ring somehow, and you don't need to know the story of what transpired from the moment that the character died, because that's the last thing that they're gonna really know. But you could then role play that character again in this telepathic communication. So like
Hmm.
I love those kinds of things. Even if it wasn't your character, it's still something that it can be fun. And as a DM, you could keep like cycling
Oh yeah, yeah. Like if you have
adventures.
an ongoing like campaign world or different campaigns in the same world, like yeah, so it'd be
Uh,
like
so
become like an artifact in your world just from that simple
Absolutely, I would
item.
I would then, as a DM, and I would take that, and I would begin altering what that item
Oh
is,
yeah,
especially with it being in more and more hands, like
sure.
more things could happen to it and what have you.
Um,
Throw out a story. I wasn't the DM for this. This was in Dave's game. He modified the Ring of Spell Storing to make the Ring of Hork, which, other than the straight up ability of it holds 5 levels of spells, it was shaped like a tentacle, and it when you wear it, it feels like it's writhing,
mhm.
and so a very bizarre or uncomfortable feeling, and I don't feel like a lot of DMs do things like that, where you just make this little twitch, little twist on an item that already exists, and it becomes something unique, something fun. So I definitely love when DMs do that kind of stuff and they really own it.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I mean even something just like that being cosmetic could be otherwise the bog right out the basic rules item and stuff, but it's just different. It'll make the player think weird
It,
about like
it
that
would
ring in
make
particular was another one because I gave that out as treasure when we were at D&D in a castle, and it's in one of the books we got, and they have
yep.
art for it, and it looks more like worms, which I always thought was even grosser, and that's how I described it. It's just like three like worms that are just like sort of like wriggling and like around your finger. And yeah, it's quite powerful and cool and just evocative for that. Like you said, even if it doesn't do anything else, it's like I got this weird like worm thing. It could be like some NPC notices and asks about it, or it's just cool. It's just cool stuff to have.
Yeah,
But the other thing with the Ring of Mind Shielding, what I like about that we've done is that enemy at the gate encounter. Um, and this is a good tip, like for just any kind of situation a DM might have, is like we gave it to the Oni who's disguised there because we were like, oh man, if anybody can like read his thoughts or anything, they'd know that he's lying or that he's in disguise. But then because of that little thing about the thing being in there, we're like, well, maybe that's who's that? Like maybe that's somebody like calling the shots on the players from beyond the grave, right? Like
oh sure.
that'd be an awesome thing for like a story if the party like defeats a villain who happens to be wearing one of those. Maybe they don't find it or whatever. And then it's like, then it ends up in the hands of, one of their lieutenants and they're still commanding them from beyond the grave. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
And yeah, the only other item we have that of note that I like a lot, because I thought we kept up pretty good actually, because there's 25 total magic rings in the basic rules, and there's 9 other ones that are unofficial. All the other books. I like to look in the basic rules first,
Oh, of course, yeah.
which is not far behind weapons, which is the second most category. There's 36 total, so there's 2 more, but all of them outshined by wondrous items. 100.
Well, of course.
Yeah, there's 125 that just smokes everything else. But I was surprised there were so many magic rings. So when I saw, I was like, hey, we got like 9 magic rings of our own. We're keeping up pretty good, I think.
That's not bad considering we're third party over here.
But in that Gaze of the Void Eye adventure, I really like this. Not just the item; it's cool and has powers and stuff. But and I hadn't looked at this book in years. I mean, it's like 3 or 4 years ago when we made that. But it's got a really cool story. So it's just in the treasure hoard of the boss, and it's like it was a ring that like a celestial crafted for their human ally who was a paladin, so that they could like adventure together better and like defeat the forces of evil. So, and then when the paladin died, it's like part of his soul went in there, and then just wound up in this creature of darkness's horde. So you can fly and basically smite once a day for like a big ass like 5d8 or something. So pretty cool. It's sort of like gives you like a paladin-esque thing. But I just really like that story, and I was like, see, I like that kind of stuff too. Where it's like it's just an item that it makes the world seem more bigger than the players. It's like that was somebody else's epic story that maybe ended a long time ago, and now they're, and like if you're a player, maybe you're interested in that. Like who was that paladin, or like where did this come from and stuff.
That's why I love spells like legend lore that allow you, access to that. And at times it's troubling if the DM is not aware that you're planning to do something like that. So.
Really.
Tip advice out there. If you're looking to do something like that for an item that is not a quest item and it's just something that like, hey, I found this really cool, powerful item, let your GM know that you're interested. And when they let you know that it's okay, then go ahead and cast that spell. But I mean, like I look
or just straight up tell them, I mean, just be like, well, I wasn't expecting that, and I hadn't thought of it, and I'd like to come up with something. I mean, maybe that's like kind of showing too much behind the veil,
right?
But unless you want to just come up with something on the spot too, that's fine.
So let me ask your question. It's definitely altered throughout the editions.
Okay,
but the ye old basic, ring of protection. Your thoughts. Is it boring? Is it powerful? Does it, do you really feel it should require attunement? Or is it one of those things of like, it does so much, it absolutely should?
You mean in fifth edition?
Yes.
Does it require attunement?
Yes.
Does it do like a stone of good luck, or is it just your AC?
It's your armor class and all saving throws.
So it's like a stone of good luck.
Yeah.
In that way. Because that does that too, right?
I believe so.
I don't know. Boring kind of. I don't like stuff like that. I like stuff that does stuff, honestly. I'd rather have something that does. I mean, it's useful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, the thing with rings is like there is no 2-ring limit in fifth edition. It's
right.
Just based on your attunement, and the only guidance beyond that is like, well, just use common sense. And for rings, it's like they can go on any finger or finger-like digit, right? So it's like, I mean, that's a 10 for a standard human. If somebody wants to argue with you, your toes are finger-like digits, right? So
we're gonna stop that conversation there before we start going into bizarre.
Yeah, right. Well, I didn't even think of that, but even just say 10. So I was like, well, that's curious. And so I looked, there's only 4 rings that don't require attunement. So I mean, even by like rules is, I guess you could still wear 7. So you could be almost the Mandarin.
Oh, nice.
You could have 3 attuned rings and 4 other ones, which are all similar too. All the ones that don't require attunement are the Ring of Animal Influence, the Ring of Swimming, the Ring of Water Walking, and the Ring of 3 Wishes.
Well, I mean, other than the Ring of 3 Wishes, like everything else seems to, like, okay, there's no need to have more than one of.
Right.
And you're gonna find extra Rings of 3 Wishes. So.
yeah, right.
But it's a scenario, and the reason I bring it up is because, like, while the crunch is not the fun part of the game for some, it absolutely is for others, to make super effective characters. And since 5th edition has been released, I have gone through 2 campaigns, and well, I'm in the second, where one of the characters at the table has a very steep armor class. It's something that is a considerable challenge for myself as the GM of like, all right, I know I'm not going to hit that guy 90+% of the time.
Sure.
So I bring in the dude to bring that guy down. And, it's a scenario that's, incredibly tough and challenging to deal with. So like I look at, my typical past of D&D, Ring of Protection, Cloak of Protection are things that were very common treasure. Because
yeah. Back in the day, just like mooks would have like a +1 Cloak of Protection on and stuff, like in 3rd edition.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of looking at in 3rd edition, when you had, you could wear 2 rings, you can wear 1 cloak, 1 helm, 1 suit of armor, like slots.
Yeah.
And typically those were the things, and you could have Ring of Protection 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And now the concept of a +2 Ring of Protection is like, holy crap, but short of your attunement slots, you could, if you had 3 rings of protection, like there's nothing that says that they don't stack. So
that's true.
You would get, you could wear your 3 rings, you would have a +3 to your armor class and a +3 to all your saves.
Or if they were all +3, you'd have +9 to your armor class.
Well, I don't even know whether there's rings of protection beyond +1, because that's all I've ever seen.
I think there is. I think there's one.
Okay.
I think I'm not 100% sure.
But I look at those things and I'm like, because I have those kind of characters that get built, like as a DM, I pull those reins back because I don't want to make things that much more harder on myself, even though like in the past, I was handing things out like candy.
yeah, right.
So
it's there's so much nuance. I mean, obviously we think about this stuff a lot. It's our jobs and all that. I'm also just live by myself, so if I'm not over at Terrace or something, it's like I'm probably thinking about D&D. But like, I don't want to put it. it's so new. Like the same thing that makes it exciting these days is like we can play with all these different people and you meet new friends. It also makes it tough because it's like so many things depend on like the weird melange that goes on at the table, right? So like if I was somebody who was inclined to and interested in building like really precise mechanically precise characters, right? I'm probably going to make character option choices that play into what they're good at already, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they're already going to be awesome at their stuff. So at that point, it's like well, you don't need any magic items that do cool things because it's like I'm going to do the cool thing. And at that
Right.
point, it's like I do want those little incremental things because that'll just keep me alive long enough where I could just always do my cool thing and have
Right.
low probability of getting taken out. So like, I suppose that in those kind of games where it's like, you know, if it's more about like, no, you're in a dungeon and your life's in mortal danger all the time. Yeah, they're probably awesome because it's like, I'd rather have that and not get killed than like, I have a wand that makes people smile and stuff like that,
Speaking of getting killed, we had a game session this past Saturday where I got to see another death in fifth edition. Happened so rarely.
In Dave's game.
In Dave's game, yeah.
But that was like a big climactic battle, wasn't
he killed his wife.
Oh, Steph. Okay.
Yeah, Dave.
He didn't. It was the bad guy.
Well, technically, no. The bad guy cast Dominate on the player who had polymorphed into a T-Rex, and he told the T-Rex to chew Steph's character.
Yeah, okay.
So it's a bendy, twisty thing. So it was.
Boy, that's a dramatic and traumatic event. It's like your adventuring ally who changes into a savage beast is then commanded to chew you to pieces.
So all right, I'm a divert for
Sure, yeah, go ahead, man. That's what we do.
All right, so we're playing in a all reptile amphibian.
That sounds so much fun,
man. Lost world, dinosaurs, dragons, all that nonsense, and the character in question who polymorphed into the T-Rex was like dead set on playing a human. So rewind back to session 0, and Dave allows it. And Steph's character is a Dragonborn. So because Dragonborn age faster than humans, her as a toddler Dragonborn, or as a teenager Dragonborn, stole the toddler human. And the story that was told to everybody else at the beginning was she found it as a baby, left alone to die. And it only came out in the last couple of sessions that no, she totally stole it away from its parents. This whole horrible thing where, the human's mother wound up killing herself. The dad becomes some kind of abomination, lizard folk, warlock kind of thing through a transformation. And he is dead set on killing, my sister's character.
The Dragonborn.
The Dragonborn.
What class was she?
She was a ranger.
Okay, cool. What kind of ranger?
The Horizon Walker, the one that does the extra.
Cool. Yeah.
The extra attack first round.
Oh man, I like those ones.
So we get into this confrontation because we attempted to negotiate with this human's father, and he's the only one that can talk to him because he's got the
touch.
He wants
the power
that can use the bardic inspiration to speak any language.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool. Wow, what a neat way to Okay,
so he talks to his father, and his father is not interested in negotiating. He wants, the Dragonborn dead. So, we decide we got this plan because whether it was an out-of-game decision or in-game decision, the bard is like, look, I have known you for all of my life. I feel connected to you more than I do to them. It sucks.
Even knowing that they were taken from their family.
Even though, so
what happened to the mom?
The mom killed herself.
Because the child was missing?
Yes.
Oh man, that is pretty crummy
She
on the
said
Dragonborn's. But I
she
don't know. I gotta.
she
I
killed
gotta.
her. She killed herself with this black stone knife or whatever. That transformed it into like this dark cursed object that
Oh wow.
was then used as a focus for him to get on, whatever warlock transformation he did.
Wow, Steph's character really caused some,
Yeah.
some trouble there.
Hey, you know what? I'm there for it.
Bitches be crazy, man.
So we get into, last night's session with this. All right, we know we have to deal with this confrontation. How do we want to handle this? And this is really bizarre because I'm playing a lizard folk, and I'm playing him dry and emotionless the entire time. And it really plays up the fact that he's got an 8 charisma. So when the bard makes this decision of like, no, we need to just off dad, I stride over and like everybody's curious as to what the hell I'm doing. And like I reach out with my, long, lizard arms and, look down at this human as I reach out and clutch his shoulder. And everybody's just, tensing on edge. And like I give this like, I forget exactly what I said, but like I get into like an emotional, like, all right, we're here for you. This is your decision. And, I'm certain this was not easy for you to do. And like the entire table just like turns and looks at me like, what the hell? But like
This man found a heart.
Skeggs has got to grow somewhat here, right?
Yeah, sure. No, that's
supposed to go on. So
seems like that. I can see that being a good perspective for like a cold, emotional person. It's like it is just being cold about it. It's just like, well, I don't care. Whatever you want to do, I'll help you.
But they found it touching, so we concoct this plan of
that's cool. Sounds fun.
Tying up the Dragonborn, tying up, to make it look like they're kidnapped, and we're gonna bring her in as a prisoner and
classic
hand her off to the father. Yeah, it's not cliche in any way, shape, or form.
Whatever. Those things are cliches because
they work.
People relate to them.
So again,
they're not cliche for the people involved in the story. You know what I mean?
So like we go into this fight, and obviously we drop the the whole thing. The dude had the dagger, and the bard is like, oh well, I should be the one to do this, and then like he reaches out because he wants the dagger. And the father hands over the dagger. He's like, right there in the face, like waiting for this to happen. And then everything goes crap. The bard tries to attack the dad with the dagger, completely missing because the dude had a monster.
I thought you were gonna say, like he had ready to action to cast time stop.
No, there was no time stop, but Dominate Beast wound up happening. But the dad kicks the shit out of the father. The dad kicks the shit out of the bard for betraying him.
Okay.
And then proceeds to go to town on the ranger.
Oh man, maybe the mother's like spirit is trapped in there too. Maybe it's like a double boss situation.
I mean that could be a scenario, but the dad.
I don't know why. Ever since you guys first talked about that in the chat months ago, it's like that just really sounds fun to me, like that kind of Lost World. And I'm not a dinosaur person. I mean, I've seen Jurassic Park, but I'm not like a huge fan of that stuff. It just sounds really cool to me.
I'm very much a dinosaur fan, so I've been digging this, completely.
Sure.
This fight, the bard gets, down to very little hit points. So he's like, well, I got to do something. We had fought a T-Rex that then died and got animated, so we had to fight the zombie T-Rex.
Like you do.
As you do, So therefore, there was no outside the realm of, oh, well, have I seen a T-Rex or not? No, we saw one. We fought one twice. So the bard becomes a T-Rex and is like, okay, I'm going to, trounce all over stuff. And then it happens,
Tomb of Annihilation really upped the ante for T-Rexes, didn't it? It's just like having a T-Rex in your campaign is like, man, that's nothing anymore. It's like, you gotta have zombie T-Rex that disgorges more zombies, at least.
Uh, so
If it's not a zombie, I send it back.
so the bard then gets dominated by the dad. Meanwhile, there's a literal
That's Robin's most disliked spell.
dominate beast.
Dominate person or beast.
Oh, okay.
Just dominates.
I'm not fond of it myself because it kind of takes away player agency, and forces like it changes the dynamic of the fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't.
It's interesting. It's like that's kind of we're way off that, but that's cool. That's kind of similar to how we say like things like Outlander and Ranger abilities don't make you better at those things. They just remove those things.
Mhm.
Like whether it's in a fight, but also like if you have like a political game with like social stuff, it's like I'm just gonna dominate that guy. It's like they can't do anything about it. They have to do what you say. There's like no save and stuff like that, or gash or whatever.
But when I look at these things, like it's a scenario where like it takes away the agency, changes the dynamic of the combat, and
Mhm.
you never know unless you happen to know how a player is at the table. You don't know what it's going to do. And I've been on a variety of sides of the equation when it comes to someone who is dominated or forced to attack an ally. And you have either the reluctant of, well, I'll make a half-hearted attempt, I won't even do like my dice rituals. I'll just kind of like drop it and I'm praying that I miss. And then you have the other players who were like, nah, I'm in this, looking through their sheet to find every little nickel and dime bonus to annihilate the other person at the table. And it's kind of amusing to see. And it sucks when you're hoping for one and you get the other for whatever reason. But all in all, the T-Rex wound up killing the Dragonborn, basically like moments before the rest of the party winds up killing Dad. And we sit there.
That's pretty dramatic. I mean, it was of all the PCs, that was like the one that was most tied to that story. Like your character wasn't, as far as I know, right?
No, like the party is together because we all have the same mentor. There's a druid who is.
But the bard and the dragonborn were like
they were together, from the get go.
Right.
Yeah, for the most part, the human was considered her pet.
Right.
Humans were not like a native race in this world. Viewed as we view apes.
Yeah, they're like undeveloped people and stuff.
Yes.
Right?
So
yeah, I'd like to play a Yuan-Ti in that setting. Man,
well, we have a Yuan-Ti druid and a Yuan-Ti monk.
Oh, really?
So
but yeah, that just sounds cool. I'm just a sucker for just themed games in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like where there's anything like that. Even those Masters to an extent I consider to be like that.
Oh, absolutely.
I just like that kind of stuff. It's just
100% there. All right, so we that was a much longer tangent than I had anticipated.
Sure.
So
you got stuff.
8:45. I've got stuff to unload to talk about, what have you. So bear with me for a moment. Some things have come into the Nerdarchy set area and are going into the giveaway pile. So our friends over at WizKids have sent some stuff, and there's more things to show later, but there's all kinds of release date information and what have you. So I've got a Dire Troll paint set. So it's got the mini, it's got the base, it's got paintbrushes, it's got all the paints you need.
Oh, really? It comes with all that stuff?
Yeah, this is like it.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different, paint pots in it.
You know what? I have never had an inkling to paint or anything, but like just now when you're talking about that, I'd do that. That seems fun. I on an afternoon or something. I didn't realize it came with the paints. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So like this is everything that you can do. And a lot of these things, if not all of them, actually have the video tutorials online. that you can go and watch and see, well, this is how you do it. And they're typically using what's here.
Yeah.
So you can just follow along and do as you will.
That's awesome.
Just released the Icons of the Realm Summon Creature set 1 and 2. These literally showed up at my house Saturday, so I don't know how many have had a chance to really talk about it and see it. But set number 2 comes with 3 elementals: a Coatl, a Green Hag, and a Satyr. So the things you need for Summon Elemental, Summon Celestial, and Summon Fey, as well.
Coatls are so cool.
We've also got Summon Creature Set 1, which comes with a Giant Goat, a Pegasus, a Warhorse, an Aurochs, and a Needleblight. So I kind of look at this one as your perfect pack for Fine Steed.
Yeah. What's the Needleblight seems out of place in there.
Yeah, I don't know whether that one's supposed to, correlate with the Satyr as, things to get with, Conjure Fey.
Oh, okay.
But that is
what. But yeah, that's cool. That Pegasus looks cool.
So yeah, they're all minis that I haven't really seen before, and I've only got so much space for minis here. So while I don't have those guys, I am resisting the urge to add them to the collection. They're going to the giveaway pile, so at some point in time they will get filtered out to you guys. And before I lose my breath, speaking of giveaways, I have got a stack, and
awesome stack
is going to be the next month's giveaway. So 2 weeks from tonight, my math is correct. We'll get into and figure out who the next giveaway winner is. But this is what you're getting. Some of our friends over at Jetpack 7, we've got Gods and Goddesses. It is still sealed. This is a very fun book. I've got you over here.
That one's got like classic pantheons and stuff that you would know it's stated out, right?
I've got a special edition cover of Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft.
That's a good book. I've been going through that section by section.
But the D&D doesn't stop there, because I've got a copy of Rime of the Frost Maiden, which has been sitting in the shelf for a little while. From our lovely friends over at Critical Hit Publishing, I've got a Scativ collection of their cinematic environs. I've got the Trap Compendium from 2C Gaming. And from Kobold Press, a copy of Deep Magic, which is a book that I highly love. I keep on the...
there's so many cool spells and feats and things in those.
There is a lot of stuff in that. So before we turned on this stream, we kind of went through the MSRP on all of this stuff. And you're looking at about $215 worth of gaming books. This is actually heavy, considering the fact that I have damaged my rotator cuff. This is actually painful for me to lift up. So I'm going to put this down.
But it's not painful to give away to you, great folks.
All right, Doug, you're going to have to take it for a couple minutes while I get a drink.
Oh, sure. So, yeah, all of the people that are part of Nerdarchy, the newsletter, are automatically entered to win all those monthly giveaways, as well as our monthly games with fans. And Patreon supporters also have a good, their probability, if you're a Patreon supporter, is high that you could participate in giveaways as well. Is that a good way of talking around that? But yeah, and just to be clear, all that stuff Ted just showed is one giveaway month. So
one
we
giveaway.
do that every month. We have a ton of stuff that we'll ship anywhere. It costs us.
Our deal is, we say that we're going to give away at least $50 worth of stuff every month, and things tend to come in almost faster than they go out. And the people over at WizKids are super awesome, and I keep getting stuff here. And especially unpainted minis, there are more minis that I have that I could possibly paint. Put a lot of them there. I show a lot of them off. So yeah, there's a lot of unloading. I know the giveaway for this particular month was hundreds upon hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, no BS. You could play D&D for the next several years with that stuff. I would just say Critical Hit Publishing. Those guys make great stuff. Those are 5 books. I mean, even if you're not interested in the giveaway, it's like, go check those guys out on Drive-Thru RPG. They got a ton of cool PDFs and print-on-demand stuff, and you get bundles and whatnot.
Yeah, the cinematic environs are 7 books.
Yeah, actually, Here's something for you folks. You can't resist this. If you go sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter, you will get a free gift, which is our player's guide, and a PDF module. $9.99 in store credit. You can go to the store and get Why Stone Horror, which is something Critical Hit Publishing made for us, so you could check it out. And then you'd also be signed up for the thing. And then if you want to go through another buck at Patreon, or $3, you can get all that stuff too. And another $9.99 in the store. So if you do the math, we're probably foolishly giving away like we're basically giving you like
no, what you're saying is Nerdarchy is generous.
Yes. Yeah. Extremely. And I'm not even going to tell you the most lucrative part of all that. You can figure that out if you go through jump through the rings that I have set before you.
Nice way to tie it back into what we're talking about. It's a circle. So
I had one more thing about rings that I want, or actually two.
Oh yeah, no, go for it.
So back in earlier editions, like you mentioned earlier, there was like certain slots. You could have 2 rings. That's it, unless you had a very special magic item that is inspired by something from our own world called the Hand of Glory, which is the petrified and chopped off hand of a criminal or evil person, basically. And if you hung it around your neck, you could put another ring on that and it would affect you. But in looking that up, because I was like, what was that thing called? It took me some search to find it, because I forgot the term Hand of Glory. In real world mythology, it didn't do anything like that. It was if you placed a burning candle in its hand that was made from fat rendered from the corpse of the evil person whose hand it was, it would paralyze anybody that fell within the light of the hand. I was like, that's pretty cool and creepy and weird and stuff. And like, I just love that kind of stuff for like my D&D games, or just as a nerd in general that likes like creepy.
Yeah, it's always fun to see, these little twists and bends and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But, when you talk about rings, like, beyond the magic items, there's other things that kind of fall into
like fairy rings and Stonehenge rings.
You've got, fairy rings, summoning rings, all of these different things that are like, magic related, arcane related, things that are out there. They could be traps, they could be hazards. But, and we've talked about traps and hazards in previous chats. So you could definitely go in that direction.
I like the opposite direction of making them cool things.
True.
But many years ago, there was a guy who wrote some stuff for us. Drew, do you remember him? He's from the UK, I believe. And he did a whole series. I forget what the series was called, of post. But there are basically like ways to do different things with like minor spells and like ribbon abilities and stuff, right? And one of them was like druid circles. And it was just, like you see those all the time in real life and photography, like old England and stuff, just like a ring of, just like a 6-foot diameter ring of stuff.
Yep.
And the idea was like, well, what if you cast what if only druids, and when you cast like druid craft on it, it like became like a ley line portal to other places and stuff. Or there was one for like paladins, like you could use your lay on hands and it would like activate these things. And those are like real cool ways to just interact and let players do different things. And for all those people like, how do you have extra planar adventures, could just be a druid craft away.
Yeah, I mean that is something that I hadn't even really considered. I love tying things where there are unique class abilities that there is no easy way to get. Technically you could take the ranger fighting style, which would give you a druid cantrip. You could take magic initiate and get to druid, and that would get you a cantrip. But like I feel like all of these things, you have to have a reason of why you're tied to nature.
Yeah.
But anything where you've got it, that unique. Lay on hands, the only way to get it is to be a paladin.
Yeah, right.
I love those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or like druidic. I guess that's the only way to learn druidic. So it's like, if it's just a ring of stones, but it's like, and I always assume like druidic like you wouldn't be like letters and you just didn't understand. Like there's a message there that
Mhm.
only druids would know. It's not like
Right.
there's written out words and stuff. So like to your point, even it would still be special for a druid. Like sure, you can get druidcraft, but you still can't read that, and you don't
Right.
know what exactly you have to do to activate it. And yeah, those are just fun things. Yeah, rings. Yeah, that's definitely a cool.
And then the last ring I have is the least interesting. You know, it's the concept of like, you could have a thieves ring or a
Oh yeah,
bandits ring. You have a group or an organization that,
good call.
they've got a thing. And again, they could have a tattoo or a necklace, or they could literally be wearing a thing that says that they're a part of this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Something that the players at some point in time have to kidnap people or kill people that have these rings
Or
and
track them.
sneak into this organization to fulfill some kind of quest and what have you. So like you've
Yeah,
got
that's really there's so many neat things you can do with that. That can also be like a way to sort of like semi reward characters that have like high perception or like that are always interested in like wanting to notice things and investigate things of like maybe they notice like a bunch of people like somebody's wearing the same ring as somebody else they saw and like that could I was just thinking as you were talking I'm like maybe the party gets their hands on one of those and it's like they don't even know what it signifies, but then somebody starts treating them different when they notice that they're wearing this ring and
Mhm.
stuff. And like, yeah, and like that goes back to our very beginning where it's just like, it's a cool thing and it's significant, but it's also easily concealed too. So it's like, it makes a good signifier like that. It's inauspicious, but it's like, if you know.
So like I dig it all, and
Yeah.
it's really how much do you want to sink into that concept? How much
Mhm.
do you want to attach to this? Are you married to that idea?
Nice.
You
Somebody in
know,
the chat mentioned the Ring of the Ram. That reminded me when you asked me earlier if like prominent rings from my campaign.
mm,
That was just like a sort of rando piece of treasure, like back in my Spelljammer campaign early on. But that character, like they loved it, used it, all the time, and it became like a signature thing for them as a cleric.
I loved Ring of the Ram
Oh yeah.
in later editions. I felt it kind of got nerfed. But
Did it used to be much more powerful? I don't. I honestly don't remember.
I feel it did. I could not tell you any hard
Yeah.
dice numbers, but like I feel like in earlier editions when I had it, like me sacrificing my turn, I could just be like, "Blammo!"
Yeah.
You knock somebody
It's
senseless.
almost like cartoonish, like a Green
To an
Lantern.
extent, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
But
just
it's
like a
like,
big, it's like a big
um,
ram hits people, right? Doesn't it have like a spectral ram
yeah,
or horns kind of like
that
come out?
that's like it could be spectral or it could be like only you see it, but like it's there. That was
Mhm.
I look at it. Uh,
Mhm.
Brian talks about boxing rings,
Mm.
what have you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw this out there, just because it's the only thing that I feel that fits. There's not a whole lot of thing beyond a monk that allow you to punch and have it be a magic attack.
Oh yeah. Good call.
Like, what if you had a ring that did, that turned your body into, a magic weapon, or even even a modifier +1,
Yeah.
to hit damage like a weapon. That would be kind of cool.
That would almost be a requirement for this Friday's character build guide, which we'll see after dark in the YouTube
Indeed.
channel.
But I mean, you could even go so far, if you wanted to, like, if you subscribe to the idea that magic rings, wind up changing shape to the person that they're going to put it on. If you had a creature that had a tail attack, like they could have a tail ring,
Mm.
they're smacking you with it, and only the astute observer would understand, like, oh, that's a magic ring. Sometime thereafter, they kill it. So
What do you think about beholders wearing rings on their eye stalks? Is that a finger-like digit? I don't know. I'd have to say by 5e rules.
I would be down for it, but given the fact that Xanathar wears rings on his eye stalks, I'm thinking that makes it canon.
Okay. That's a finger-like digit, I suppose.
I mean, if you look at the pictures of Xanathar,
Yeah, oh, yeah, I know.
he straight up has them.
Dude, I used to read that comic back in the day that the Xanathar was in. I thought it was so cool.
And the legitimate Xanathar mini has,
Yeah. Does the
has
stat block actually? I think it might even describe it in the Dragon Quest.
I do not know. I'd have
Yeah,
to.
you don't have to go look it up, but yeah, I think
But like I said, I've got the Xanathar Beholder mini, and he's totally wearing rings on one of the eye stalks. So
he's blinging it up.
I say it's there. Do as you will.
Sure.
But we're past the 9 o'clock hour. Any last things that you want to mention? We good?
Nope, I think we hit everything and brought it full circle. We kept it on.
All right. So I will throw it out, come back, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and join Dave in the live chat. Come on back tomorrow night and watch, Nerd Doug over here in the guide seat for Ingest Quest using the Quest RPG, which is a fantastic game. Everybody's having a lot of fun with it.
Hopefully a bird-free session.
I
have bird-proofed my house.
You got to watch last session if you don't. It was hysterical. A little bit of long notice, but I do apologize for the last time that we, had said that we were going to play the Untraditionally Arcane, and it did not happen. We are now locking in for July 2nd. We are down a player, but we're gonna push forward no matter what and make that happen. So come on back, check it out. So I guess until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.